Hello and welcome to another edition of Around the Kitchen Table with Tullahoma's Entrepreneurs. I'm Lane Curley, the longtime part-time mayor of Tullahoma. As you may know, each year I introduce a different community initiative. Things like the Sports Council, the Arts Council, Downtown Tullahoma, any number, Get Fit Tullahoma, Go Green Tullahoma, all in an effort to get more citizens involved and to move Tullahoma forward. This year my emphasis is on entrepreneurism. So what's an entrepreneur? Entrepreneurs are the makers, the doers, the hustlers, the risk takers, and the dreamers. They bring a vibrancy to a community. They turn ideas into reality, and they create jobs. These are the founders who invest their own blood, sweat, and tears. Oftentimes, the ideas start around a kitchen table, and that's why we're here around this kitchen table, and they grow from here. We have hundreds of successful entrepreneurs in Tullahoma. We need to welcome, encourage, and we need to celebrate entrepreneurs. It's important we support our local entrepreneurs. A goal of mine is to make Tullahoma Tennessee's rural entrepreneurial capital and the city of opportunity and innovation. So why are we around the kitchen table? Believe it or not, that's where many business ideas are created and nurtured. Some ideas then move to the garage, then perhaps a small office or storefront, and the business is off and running. So each week I want to introduce you to a Tullahoma entrepreneur, someone who has put his or her own money at risk and created jobs. Most of us, when we think of entrepreneurs, we think of founders of businesses, but that's not necessarily always the case. Many entrepreneurs buy existing businesses. An example of that is we'll hear today. In 2018, Tyler Fresh bought A&R Glass, a company that was started way back in 1974 in Tullahoma. I'm anxious to hear Tyler's story of entrepreneurism. Welcome, Tyler, to Around the Kitchen Table.
Thank you.
Yeah. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. Grew up in Nashville, stayed in Nashville my whole life. Actually moved many times in Nashville growing up, but I'm from Nashville. Just happened to find and marry a good girl from here.
Yeah. So that's what brought you to Tullahoma.
Correct.
Yeah. So how long have you been in Tullahoma?
We moved to Tullahoma about a year ago now. So
to buy the business?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is the reason we're here.
Yeah, good. So tell us a little bit more about your childhood growing up.
Family is in construction. Both my mother and father work in the family business, so they're heavily involved in the day-to-day. They do the day-to-day, run the business. So growing up, that's what I was around. I was around construction, around building and moving, and that's construction is something I've been involved with my whole life.
Yeah. So would you consider your parents to be entrepreneurs?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Through their construction business?
Yes.
Yeah. So what about your education, Tyler?
Went to many schools growing up just because we moved in Nashville. The school system, you move across the street and you go to a different school. So I went to many different schools in Nashville and then ended up at UT Knoxville for college.
Yeah, good. So did you have a job as a teenager that maybe had a memorable experience?
So one of my first jobs, I've always done a lot of different things, but one of the things that I started doing when I was actually 12 years old is I was a DJ. And that started from little backyard, house parties, pool parties, stuff like that, all the way up to weddings, proms, big events. And some of the most memorable events I've ever done were, on riverboats in Nashville and Knoxville, or at the Opryland Hotel or the Parthenon in Nashville. So things like that.
So what spurred that interest?
I was involved with the arts at my school and audio video work there, and I kind of knew how the equipment operated, so I decided that I could go off and try to be a DJ. And so I did that, like I say, from really a teenager through college.
So I'm anxious to hear, did any of that occur to you that you might be an entrepreneur at that stage?
I just thought it was very interesting, and I knew it could, make a little money more than allowance doing it. So that was why I got into it. It was really more fun at first, parties for friends and stuff like that, and it really turned into something that got pretty big.
Yeah. Do you still do that now?
I do not.
No,
I
okay.
quit doing that when I was in Knoxville, so
Okay.
kind of moved on from there.
Yeah. So I stopped by your company, A&R Glass, yesterday, and we took some video. So let's watch the monitor, and I want you to tell us a little bit. First of all, where are you located?
Okay,
Tyler?
we're at 800 South Washington Street. That's right here in town.
Yeah, right at the foot of the viaduct.
Correct.
Right.
This is just various work orders that we have out at any given moment. There could be anywhere from 20 to 50 customers that we may be waiting to serve at any given time.
So what are we seeing now? Those.
We've got, this is a fabrication area where we build storefront, be it commercial storefront doors or windows. That's the kind of windows you would see in any sort of commercial building, a school, a church, a retail center. These are all insulated glass units that would go into the storefront. This is the material that, it's an aluminum material that's extruded that we take and we fabricate in our shop to build it to the opening. Got a door here that's actually going here in town to George Dickel that they loaded up yesterday. Got the guys working in the shop here.
I noticed yesterday you had some red extruded material. What would that be used for?
The job we're working on right now is actually the new fire hall in Winchester, Tennessee. So
Oh.
that was fire red material.
Yeah.
Just we do polishing glass, tabletops, mirrors. That's what Patrick's working on here.
So how many employees do you have?
We have about 10 employees. Some guys, we do have some temporary workers, but we have about 10 guys that are doing field work right now.
Okay. Now, are you the person? Oh, tell us about this.
One of the big parts of our business is doing shower enclosures. So what you're seeing here is an example of heavy glass shower enclosures. That's a lot of what we do on the residential side.
Yeah. So now, are you the person that gets a call in the middle of the night that someone has crashed into a building and needs the glass repaired real quick?
Yes. My first week, actually, as the new owner, I personally got a call. I was working late at the shop, and I went and boarded up a Verizon store in McMinnville that a car had gone through. So I have done that in the past. We try to avoid getting into those situations, but yes, it does happen.
It does happen, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I suspect the police department or someone has your name and number.
I just happened to be at the shop and unfortunately answered the phone, but we got it boarded up and ended up putting it back together.
Yeah.
It took a while for the insurance to go through, but we did put it back together a couple months later.
Yeah.
So it's interesting work.
Yeah. So I mentioned at the top of the show that not all entrepreneurs found businesses, but they would acquire a business, and that's the example of what you did with A&R Glass last year.
Yes.
Walk us through your decision, how you made the decision as to whether to acquire A&R Glass.
The business has been around for a long time. I had family connections to the former owner. And the idea was floated that she might be looking to retire, and so we actually spent almost a year doing our due diligence, and I came up here and worked for a while before we really made the decision and saw the day-to-day and saw all aspects of the business before we really decided that it's something that we wanted to get involved in.
Yeah. So can you give us, what kind of due diligence did you do?
That's everything from the standpoint of looking at historical, the financials of the business, looking at what kind of jobs had been done in the past, what kind of opportunities there are in the future, and actually getting into the shop and really seeing how it all works, which was not something that I knew about until I did come here.
Sure.
I've been around a lot of construction, but not around glass.
Sure. But the glass business is part of construction to some extent. So you had some familiarity with how things are put together and how things work, and vendors maybe and things like that?
Correct. I knew a little bit about a lot, which is now a big difference because I have to learn a lot about a specific trade.
Yeah. So any surprises that you've had along the way since you acquired it a year ago?
Every day is a surprise. Every day is a learning experience, especially for my wife and I taking over this business, coming into a new but relatable industry. It's something that every day you have to learn. Every day is something different.
Yeah. So sometimes a business owner will have to pivot or change direction a little bit, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. Have you had to pivot in any way, either prior to this or even with A&R Glass?
The biggest change for us was the move here, and getting out of the day-to-day of building and renovating structures and doing work around Nashville, Middle Tennessee, to actually taking over a business and moving here. Finding a place to live here,
Sure.
finding taking this over was the biggest change.
Yeah.
Outside of the changes that we've tried to make actually at A&R.
Yeah. So who are your customers?
Our customer is really anybody that could be involved with glass or need glass, which is, when you really think about it, if you focus on it, is everybody.
Sure.
You interact with it every day. So we do everything from picture frames and tabletops and mirrors and showers all the way up to the commercial doors that you see and use, that get used 100 times a day. So it's a very wide spectrum, big and little jobs.
Yeah. So you mentioned McMinnville a while ago. That's a pretty large market area. What do you consider your market area to be?
We travel about 100 miles from Tullahoma. That's grows and gets smaller. It just depends on the demand, depends on the job. We do a lot of work really within an hour of here, so that covers a pretty long range of possibility.
Yeah. So Tyler, how are you growing your business?
The biggest difference or thing that we do differently now to find new business outside of the network of customers that Marilyn and the former owners of A&R were able to build, the reputation that was built. We get on bid boards, public and private bid boards, and that allows us to connect with contractors maybe that we have never worked with before, and then that gives you allows you the ability to expand your network.
Yeah.
So the internet has helped in a big way expand the network of potential business, at least on the commercial side.
Yeah. So I've really not thought about that before, but some of your business is directly to the consumer.
Correct.
Within other part of your business, if you're dealing with a commercial or industrial, might be through a contractor.
Correct.
Yeah.
So on the residential side, it's going to be typically dealing directly with a homeowner, maybe a contractor if they're doing a bathroom remodel or something along that nature, or putting commercial windows in a house or something, which is something that you do see if you do large windows. But on the larger jobs, we're working through contractors or another subcontractor for the work.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. Really, anybody that has glass in their home or business is a prospective customer, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah. So how important is creativity in your business?
But one thing that I've tried to be creative with is the reuse of materials that would otherwise be wasted. So glass is a very unforgiving material, and when it won't work for particular situations, a lot of times it would become waste. So we've tried to find ways to reuse certain pieces that otherwise couldn't go into the application they were originally intended for.
Yeah. When and this is naive of me to some extent, but when I think of glass as glass is glass, but that's not the case, I'm sure.
Sure.
I'm sure there are many varieties, and
there are 100 different ways to assemble an insulated glass unit, which is a double pane glass, like modern glass. Modern is two panes of glass. And you can use a variety of different materials to assemble that unit, and depending on how you assemble it, alters the look, the energy performance, things of that nature.
Yeah. So I've heard over the years from many people that sometimes employee challenges are the biggest challenges. Have you had some employee challenges that you could share?
Um, th- we were blessed to retain everyone that
Yeah.
was there previously, and that's been fantastic. Finding and training and retaining employees is I would say the most difficult part of running our business, and I'm sure running any business is the human element.
Sure. Yeah. So, what do you like most about your work at AR Glass?
I would say being able to see it every day. Being able to drive through town and just
Sure.
see various buildings that we have worked on.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see what you've done.
Okay.
See what a lot of that I wasn't involved with, but
Yeah.
I know A&R was. And as we've been there longer,
Right.
I'm starting to see more and more that was
Yeah.
done during
Yeah.
my time.
Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting to see.
So it might not be a fair question, but what do you most dislike about your work?
I would say the waste is a big part, but the hours and the stress involved is something that's really hard to deal with. We do some pretty big jobs that are pretty hard to manage, and those are the ones that can be the most rewarding, but they're the most difficult to accomplish.
Yeah. So you mentioned hours. I think a lot of people would find it interesting. What is your typical work day or your work week like in terms of hours? And
Right now, I on average work at least 12 hours a day. So that's very early mornings and sometime late nights, depending on what's going on, what needs to be bid or what's waiting to go in, what needs to be organized to get the jobs done, either jobs that we already have or jobs that we're looking to get.
Yeah. I know you've only been in this for a year, but is there a seasonal aspect to glass?
Certainly. I would say the summer and the fall are the busiest times. So right now we are busier than we've ever been. So that's both on the residential and the commercial side.
Yeah. So how do you describe yourself as a leader?
I try to be hands-on. I like to be in the shop. I like to go see the work when it's happening. I don't always get to leave the shop because there's a lot going on there in the office and in the shop environment. But I like to be hands-on, be around when things are getting put together, worked on, and actually see them get installed and function when they're in place and finished. So I try to be involved.
Yeah. So are you the salesperson for your organization?
To some extent,
Yeah.
a lot of our products, not to say that they sell themselves, but we have a lot of different things that we do. But when it comes down to it, it's typically myself, or we do have two other folks in the office that might facilitate, bringing in business.
Yeah. My point is, you're involved in a very diverse. Any day could be made up of hands-on in the shop. It can be involved in creating a sale and following up on a sale, and anything in between, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it comes down to really, if there's ever a problem, I'm the one that finds out about it.
You're the go-to guy.
Correct.
Yeah. So, what was your biggest challenge getting started, Tyler?
Making the decision to take the leap of faith to move here was a challenge, but the hardest part was actually securing the financing to make the purchase, and we did that through a local bank, through First Vision Bank, and they were instrumental in helping us be able to have the finances to make it happen. And also to be able to operate the business once we got in there.
Yeah. Has it been as much fun as you thought it would be?
Some days are fun, and some days are not, and some days are really bad. But for the most part, every day is a challenge. Yeah. Every day is a learning experience. Yeah. So it has been really, really great to see a lot of different things and learn a lot of things. Yeah. So it is still fun.
Yeah. Where do you see Tyler or A&R Glass 5 years from now?
I see us here, obviously, staying here, growing the business that's been here for so long, but I'd like to stay the same size, just maybe be a little bit more efficient than we are now. And a lot of things have happened in just the almost year since we've been here. I'd like to just continue to improve the business and have happy customers, happy employees, and be successful.
Yeah. So the business is growing now.
We are doing just as much, if not more, than we were than we have been historically in the past. Yeah. So there's no shortage of demand.
Yeah. So transition can be a difficult time for entrepreneurs, but it sounds like you've weathered that part of it, and probably the hardest part is over after a year in terms of transition.
It's some days things get easier, and then some days they get harder. But I've learned a lot, but still have a lot to learn as well.
So I know that A&R Glass over the years, and now with the new owner, you give back to the community. Tell us about your involvement in the community.
Well, we do a few sponsorships for local sports teams, and one of the biggest things that we've enjoyed, or one of the most enjoyable things that we've gotten involved with, is the South Jackson Civic Center and supporting the arts through South Jackson.
Yeah. So I was there that night when the lights were turned on for the first time to see your work. Describe to our viewers what role A&R Glass had in that project.
Of the new installment at the South Jackson Civic Center, we did the removal of the old windows at the old skill building on the front of the building, and then installed new window frames and glass so that the rest of the installation could be completed inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. I'm sure you're proud of that.
That's one of my most favorite jobs.
Yeah, good. So, Tyler, give us some idea. Let's talk about Tyler for just a minute. What are you involved with outside of work?
Right now, my 5-month-old baby.
Yeah.
5-month-old baby is the one that gets all the attention right now, what attention we have to give, my wife and I. But taking care of the baby and taking care of an almost 80-year-old house that we bought here that sat vacant for several years is what takes up most of my time right now.
Yeah. So what do you like most about Tullahoma? You've been here for a year. Give us some idea, as a relative newcomer, what do you like most about Tullahoma?
Well, I am new, but I do have family that is from here, and I love that Tullahoma is a small town, and it still feels like a small town, and I have a short commute to get anywhere that I need. The people are great, but even though it is a small town, it still has most of the amenities that anybody could want of a large city. So I really enjoy being able to get around town, and I enjoy the people here.
Yeah, I know your wife is from here, but did you have an opportunity to visit Tullahoma as you were growing up?
Yes.
Okay.
I did have my mother's side of my family is actually from here, so we have family ties here. And my uncle is actually in Estill Springs, and my aunt is in Winchester. So we have family coming back to the area. So not only did I come here growing up, I'm living here now. It is pretty cool.
You might or might not know this, but one of my chief job as mayor, I think, is trying to design a community that's attractive for young families to either remain here, return here, or relocate here. So we're proud that you and your young family have decided to come to Tullahoma and make it your home. So let's talk, what is your favorite time of the day?
Early in the morning.
Yeah. Is that because the baby's waking you up, or?
Well, the baby does wake us up early in the morning, but early in the morning, just as far as really work is concerned, is the time when no one else is around and the phone's not ringing. So it's just a good time to clear your head, try to figure out what all needs to be done, and accomplish some things before it gets crazy, before the day really starts.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what if this opportunity had not come up? What would you see yourself doing?
Well, before I moved here, I was working with my father in the family construction company, and I would likely be back
Yeah.
in Nashville working with my mother and father and doing some of the other work that I was doing, which was all revolving around home construction and remodeling, maintenance work, stuff like that. I would be likely there.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly glad you made Tullahoma your home. So describe, I'm always interested here what entrepreneurs say to this question. Who and why has been the biggest influence on your life?
I would say my dad. My dad is the one that, growing up, took me around to all the job sites and was the one that showed me how you take, people and materials and tools and build something. And so I was always fascinated to see things come together. And he's just been a great influence on how to build things and do the best work that you can do when you put something together.
Yeah. Well, Tyler, we very much appreciate your time today. Congratulations on the acquisition of A&R Glass. Hope it continues to grow and thrive. And if anyone is watching, we're really trying hard to design a community that's not only attractive for young families, but also an entrepreneurial culture in our community. We want to eliminate barriers to entrepreneurism. We want people to be more entrepreneurial oriented. So hopefully this program and others have been of interest to you, and maybe it sparked an entrepreneurial interest and that you want to pursue as well. We certainly hope so. So again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon around the kitchen table again. Thank you.